Naomi Hayes woke up to the sharp, hollow sound of a door slamming shut. The digital clock on her bedside table glowed 2:30 a.m. She could hear heavy footsteps in the entryway, followed by the rustling sound of clothing hitting the hardwood floor, and then a dull thud. Darius was home from his company's holiday gala. A minute later, her husband was snoring loudly beside her, still wearing his dress sock. He reeked of whiskey and a sweet, overpowering foreign perfume, a scent completely unlike the light, crisp fragrances Naomi preferred. She wrinkled her nose and edged toward the very edge of the king-sized bed. It had been a long time since the 30-year-old woman was surprised by these late-night arrivals. Over the course of the last 6 months, Darius had undergone a significant change. He used to be home without fail by 7 o'clock in the evening. They would share a leisurely dinner, binge-watch TV series, and talk at length about their plans for the upcoming weekend. Now, however, her husband habitually stayed at work until 9, and sometimes even as late as 11 o'clock. "New project," he'd explain tersely, not even bothering to look up from his phone screen. Naomi worked as a senior real estate broker for a major Atlanta agency called Premier Properties. Her days were consumed by driving all over the sprawling city, showing condos and houses to prospective buyers, meeting with clients, and meticulously handling complex closing documents. She genuinely loved her job. She had a natural ability to connect with people, intuitively sense their needs, and help them make sound decisions. In her 5 years in the real estate profession, Naomi had earned a solid reputation as a reliable and highly knowledgeable specialist. She and Darius had first met 7 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday party. He was undeniably charming, impressively witty, and knew how to tell captivating stories in a way that held everyone's attention. He was the undisputed life of the party, and Naomi found herself instantly drawn to him. Darius was employed as a marketing specialist for a small firm. He harbored ambitious dreams of climbing the corporate ladder. A year later, they were happily married. 2 years after their wedding, they purchased a 2-bedroom condo in a promising up-and-coming neighborhood. Naomi poured all of her savings into the extensive renovations. She meticulously handpicked every interior detail, carefully creating a cozy and inviting nest for their future family. But sadly, children never came. Initially, they postponed having children because of the financial burden of the mortgage. Then, Darius secured a promotion and became the associate director of marketing at a large, successful company called Synergy Marketing Group. "Let's wait just 1 more year," he'd say with a disarming smile. "I really need to solidify my position in this new role." Naomi reluctantly accepted his reasoning, though her anxiety grew with each passing month. Naomi was the first one to wake up the next morning. Darius was sprawled haphazardly across the bed, selfishly hogging all the space. Naomi quietly got out of bed, put on her robe, and went to the kitchen to start the coffee maker. As she passed through the living room, she noticed her husband's blazer carelessly tossed on the floor. Sighing, she picked it up with the intention of hanging it in the closet. That's when a set of keys unexpectedly tumbled out of the pocket. Naomi automatically reached down to pick them up. It was a normal keychain with 3 keys and a charm, but the charm caused her to freeze in place. It was a small pink plastic heart inscribed with the words, "For my love." These definitely weren't her keys. Her own keychain hung securely on the hook next to the front door. She'd distinctly seen it there just the night before. Someone else's keys. Found in the pocket of her husband's jacket, Naomi's heart began to pound rapidly in her chest. She clenched the unfamiliar keychain tightly in her fist and glanced around the room. Darius's cell phone was lying on the living room side table. Its screen was lit up with a stream of notifications. She reached over, picked it up, and unlocked it. Her husband had never bothered to hide his phone's passcode from her before. And what a monumental mistake that turned out to be. On the screen was an unread text message from an unknown number not saved in his contacts. "Hope you already told your stupid wife you're leaving her for me. The apartment keys are in your pocket. Kisses." Naomi read the shocking message 3 times in a row. Every single word pierced her consciousness like a sharp shard of glass. Stupid wife. Leaving her for me. Apartment keys. Strangely, she felt no immediate pain or overwhelming sadness. Instead, a chilling calm slowly descended upon her. Naomi deliberately sat down on the sofa, still tightly gripping the foreign keys in her hand. In her mind, the whole situation began to crystallize with sudden and terrifying clarity. Darius was having an affair. He was involved with a mistress. This other woman was so confident in their relationship that she had already given him the keys to her place. Moreover, she fully believed that he was on the verge of leaving his wife. He was supposed to tell his wife today of all days. Naomi glanced back toward the bedroom where her husband was still snoring soundly, a 35-year-old man she had been happily married to for 7 years, with whom she shared a home and a bed, into whom she had poured her entire soul, and with whom she had painstakingly planned their shared future, and he was simply going to walk away, perhaps even tonight. She stood up and walked slowly over to the window. The world continued spinning at its normal pace, completely oblivious to the fact that Naomi's entire life was rapidly collapsing. No, she thought to herself, it wasn't actually collapsing. A strange smile unexpectedly appeared on the woman's lips. She looked back at her husband's phone, then down at the incriminating keys in her hand. "I'm going to throw you a welcome home party," Naomi whispered, her voice barely audible. Her fingers moved instinctively to the conversation thread with the unknown number. The last message had arrived at precisely 2 a.m. Naomi started typing a reply on Darius's behalf. "I'll tell her tonight. Get the champagne ready, love. Send." The message went through with 2 quick confirmation clicks. A second later, the checks turned blue, then red. Naomi swiftly deleted the entire conversation, including her own message and the mistress's incoming text. She carefully put the phone back on the side table, and then concealed the keys deep in her robe pocket. The coffee maker in the kitchen started hissing, signaling that it was done. She returned to the kitchen, poured herself a generous cup of coffee, sat down at the table, and tried her best to think calmly and rationally. In her chest burned not despair or grief, but a sharp, focused, and calculating excitement. Naomi had always possessed the remarkable ability to calculate her moves several steps ahead. That was precisely why she was such a successful and sought-after real estate broker. Now the most complex and challenging operation of her entire life was unfolding before her, and she fully intended to emerge victorious. Darius finally came out of the bedroom around 10 o'clock in the morning. His face was puffy and flushed, his eyes were heavy and sleepy, and his eyelids were noticeably swollen. He shuffled wearily to the kitchen without even offering a simple hello, poured himself a glass of water from the pitcher, and drank it down in one swift gulp. "My head is absolutely splitting. Get me some Advil," he mumbled, slumping heavily into the chair across from Naomi. "I made you breakfast," she said softly, placing a plate of freshly made scrambled eggs with crisp, colorful vegetables and a steaming cup of coffee in front of him. "And then I'll get you the Advil." Darius looked at his wife in genuine surprise. For the past several months, she had greeted his increasingly late returns with tense, irritated silence. And now this care. "Thanks," he grumbled, and began to eat his breakfast. Naomi finished her coffee, carefully observing her husband's every move. He ate quickly and mechanically without looking up from his plate. A nearly smudged lipstick mark was clearly visible on his cheek. His hair was a complete and utter mess. A typical snapshot of a 35-year-old man after a long night at a company party. Nothing particularly special or unique about him. When had he first cheated? A month ago? 6 months ago? Maybe longer. This clandestine relationship had apparently been going on for nearly a year, and Naomi hadn't noticed a single thing, blindly believing in the increasingly late work hours and the constant stream of urgent projects. "Do you have any plans for today?" she asked in a calm and even voice. "Got to swing by the office for a bit," Darius replied distractedly without taking his eyes off his plate. "Finish up a presentation. I'll be back earlier tonight around 8. Naomi simply nodded. So tonight he planned to finally break the devastating news that he was leaving, that he was choosing someone else over her. Okay, I'll be busy too, she said nonchalantly. I'm showing 3 different properties. Then I have a meeting with some potential clients about a brand new listing. Darius finally looked directly at his wife. A subtle flicker of relief briefly crossed his tired eyes. No complaints, no accusations. Perfect. He finished his coffee and stood up from the table. I'm going to take a shower. When the bathroom door closed firmly behind him, Naomi quickly retrieved the foreign keys from her robe pocket. The small pink plastic heart sparkled brightly in the morning sun. Who exactly was this woman? How old was she? What did she look like? Naomi picked up her cell phone and dialed the number of a private investigator she'd gotten 2 years ago from a former client. That client had been investigating her own husband's infidelity and had highly recommended a good specialist. Naomi had inexplicably saved the contact information without truly knowing why. Now she understood perfectly. Her intuition had somehow warned her. Reliant Investigations. Marcus Jones speaking. A deep masculine voice answered on the other end. Good morning. My name is Naomi Hayes. I need to schedule a consultation regarding a personal matter. Would it be possible to meet sometime today? Certainly. I have some time available at 2 p.m. Does that work for you? Perfect. Thank you. Naomi quickly wrote down the address and put her phone down. The plan was rapidly maturing in her head entirely on its own, precise and cold, like a perfectly executed surgical operation. The day passed in the usual whirlwind of activity, showing properties to prospective buyers, engaging in tense negotiations, and signing contracts. Naomi smiled pleasantly at clients, cracked jokes, and professionally discussed intricate transaction details. No one would have ever suspected the silent hurricane that was raging inside her. At exactly 2 p.m., she walked into the detective agency's office. It was a small, somewhat underwhelming space located on the 3rd floor of a generic office park with modest furniture and shelves overflowing with crammed folders. A tall man of about 45, with a penetrating gaze from his piercing gray eyes, came out to greet her. The distinguished silver at his temples lent him an air of undeniable solidity and trustworthiness. Marcus Jones, he introduced himself, shaking her hand firmly. Please have a seat. Naomi sat down in the comfortable armchair opposite his desk. Marcus settled into his own chair, clasped his hands together on the desk, and looked intently at his visitor. I'm listening. I need complete and detailed information about a person. Naomi began, her voice steady. A woman. I only know her phone number. She dictated the number from the text message she had discovered earlier that morning. Marcus took meticulous notes. All right. Name, workplace, address, social circle. I can find all of that out in a few days. What else? I need to know everything, and I mean everything, about her relationship with my husband. How long have they been seeing each other? Where do they meet? What exactly is he promising her? Every single detail is critically important. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. He had seen dozens of women just like this one, betrayed wives who came seeking irrefutable proof of infidelity, but there was something subtly different about this particular woman. She was far too calm, almost serene. May I inquire as to why you need this information? He asked cautiously. Please understand that the working methodology often depends heavily on your ultimate goal. Naomi looked him directly in the eyes, her gaze unwavering. I want to completely destroy this woman's life in the exact same way she so callously tried to destroy mine. But I want to do it elegantly, legally correctly, and with maximum benefit for me. The detective's eyebrows rose slightly in surprise. Understood. Then we will need not only comprehensive information about the mistress, but also a complete dossier on your husband, including his finances, his properties, and all of his contacts and conversations. Exactly. How much time do you need? 1 week for the basic information, 2 weeks for the complete dossier with recorded conversations, if necessary. I don't have 2 weeks, Naomi stated firmly. 1 week maximum. Work day and night if you have to. Money is absolutely not an issue. Marcus pondered the request for a moment, then nodded slowly. All right, 1 week. But I'll need your help. We'll need to install a discrete application on your husband's phone to track his movements and copy all of his conversations. Can you handle that? I can. They discussed the intricate details and then signed the formal contract. Naomi transferred the retainer fee directly from the office. Leaving the detective's office, she felt a strange thrill course through her veins. The game had officially begun, and she fully intended to win every single chip. That evening, Darius did indeed return home around 8 as he had promised. Naomi greeted him with a warm smile and a delicious dinner. Her husband seemed uncharacteristically tense. He tried to speak several times, but couldn't quite bring himself to do it. When they went to bed, Darius immediately turned his back to her and faced the wall. Naomi lay awake with her eyes wide open, carefully listening to his breathing. Half an hour later he was sound asleep. She quietly got out of bed, took his phone from the side table, and went to the living room. She expertly installed the app that Marcus had given her. The program cleverly disguised itself as a routine system security update. Darius wouldn't notice a thing. Then, Naomi opened his Messenger app and searched for the dialogue with the unknown number. Of course, Darius had already written to his mistress, but the conversation had been meticulously deleted. It didn't matter in the slightest. Naomi created a new message. Sorry for the silence, sweetie. It was a really tough day. Couldn't talk to my wife, but I will definitely tomorrow for sure. Miss you. Kisses. The reply arrived just 2 minutes later. I understand, my love. Don't rush it. Everything must be done properly. I'm waiting for you. I love you. Naomi smiled coldly. Then she deleted the entire conversation and carefully put the phone back exactly where she had found it. The plan was working perfectly, precisely as she had envisioned. The next morning, Marcus Jones sent her the first preliminary results. Naomi read the message while sitting in her SUV before a scheduled showing. Target located. Chloe Jensen, 25 years old, secretary at Synergy Marketing Group, works in the very same office as your husband, rents a 1-bedroom apartment on Pinewood Drive. Her parents live in another state, never married, no children, continuing surveillance. Secretary, 25 years old. A classic story, the boss and his young impressionable employee. Naomi smiled ironically. Darius had always considered himself to be so unique and original, and yet he turned out to be so utterly predictable. She opened social media and found Chloe's page, an undeniably attractive blonde with full lips and large, innocent eyes. The photos showed countless selfies in various coffee shops, at crowded parties, and at the gym. A naive girl clearly dreaming of finding her prince on a white horse. Naomi casually scrolled through the posts. 2 weeks ago, Chloe had uploaded a picture of a beautiful sunset with the caption, "Happiness is so close." A week ago, she had posted an inspirational quote about true love. The day before yesterday, an image with the phrase, "Believe in miracles and they will happen." The poor thing was already living in a pink-tinted dream. Naomi thought to herself. Chloe was already imagining the elaborate wedding, the exotic honeymoon, and a perfect life together. And Darius was simply having a bit of fun. Or was he? Naomi paused thoughtfully. What if her husband had genuinely fallen in love with this other woman? What if he was actually ready to leave everything behind for this girl? Then the meticulously crafted plan would need to be adjusted accordingly. She immediately called Marcus. I need all of Darius's conversations about Chloe, especially any conversations where he talks honestly about his true intentions. Also, I need you to tap Chloe's phone. Tapping the phone is a bit more complicated, the detective replied cautiously. I need physical access to the phone. Find a way. Offer her a promotion or an opportunity to participate in a lucrative survey. I don't care what you do. The important thing is to install the program. Okay. I'll try to get to her through a promotional giveaway. Girls that age usually accept easily enough. Naomi hung up and got out of her SUV. Her clients were already waiting for her patiently at the curb. A young couple eagerly looking for their very first home. She activated her most professional smile and went to greet them. The showing went exceptionally well. The couple absolutely loved the condo, and were already ready to discuss the specific terms of the potential sale. Naomi immediately set up a meeting for the very next day to sign the initial pre-contract. That afternoon, a message arrived from Marcus. Program successfully installed on target number 2's phone. Beginning information gathering. Perfect. Now Naomi would know the mistress's every single move. Darius returned home around 9 that evening. He looked particularly tired and unusually irritable. Rough day at work? Naomi asked solicitously, serving him a plate of pasta with his favorite sauce. What kind of problems? He grumbled in response. Just a tough day, that's all. They ate mostly in silence. Naomi watched her husband nervously checking his phone, typing messages and constantly looking back at the screen. After dinner, Darius retreated to his study. Naomi washed the dishes, tidied up the kitchen, and then sat down in the living room with her tablet. The tracking app glowed brightly on the screen. She could see all of her husband's messages in real time. He was currently writing to Chloe. Sorry, sweetheart. Couldn't talk to my wife today. She was actually in a good mood for once. I didn't want to ruin it. Tomorrow for sure. Chloe's reply came almost immediately. Darius, I understand that this is hard for you, but we had an agreement. How much longer do I have to wait? Darius replied. Just have a little more patience, love. Everything will definitely work out in the end. I promise. Chloe responded. Okay. I love you. Can you come to see me even for just a little while? I miss you so much. Darius typed back. Can't today. I'll try to see you tomorrow during the day. Naomi read the entire conversation with icy calm. So her husband really did intend to leave her. He was just stalling, desperately looking for the right moment to break the news. She opened a new message and wrote on Darius's behalf after he had put his phone down and gone to bed. You know, sweetheart, I've been thinking, how about we get away together this weekend? Take a well-deserved break from all of this mounting tension. What do you say? Then she deleted the entire conversation. As always, an hour later, Darius came out of the study and went to take a shower. Naomi quickly grabbed his phone. Chloe's reply had already arrived. Oh yes, my love. I've been dreaming of this for so long. Let's go to the lake. Rent a cozy cabin. It will be so incredibly romantic. Naomi smiled coldly and typed the response. Agreed. I'll organize everything, but don't tell anyone a single word about it. Chloe typed back immediately. Okay. It will be our secret. I'm so happy. I love you so much. Naomi deleted the conversation and carefully returned the phone. The plan was definitely getting more complicated, but that only made it even more interesting. The next day, she met with Marcus again at their usual spot. The detective spread a folder of photographs on the table. Here is everything that I've managed to gather in just 3 days. Your husband has been seeing Chloe Jensen for approximately 4 months. They started their affair back in June, after a corporate retreat. They typically meet 2 or 3 times a week, usually at her apartment. Sometimes they go to coffee shops on the other side of town where no one knows them. Naomi glanced briefly at the photos. Darius and Chloe holding hands intimately. Darius and Chloe kissing passionately in a doorway. Darius and Chloe staring deeply into each other's eyes at a fancy restaurant. What exactly is he promising her? She asked, her voice betraying no emotion. Judging by the wiretaps, he's promising her marriage. He says that he will officially divorce you within a month. He also claims that the condo is solely in his name, and that you won't get anything in the divorce. He's blatantly lying, Naomi said coldly. The condo was purchased during our marriage. It is a joint asset. Furthermore, I invested significantly more money than he did in the extensive renovations. I have all of the receipts to prove it. Marcus nodded slowly. I checked. Legally, you're absolutely right. But Chloe fully believes him. Moreover, she has already started planning their future together. That's exactly what she spoke about on the phone with a close friend of hers. They were openly discussing when she should quit her current job. She wants to be completely free for him. She is also planning to take out a substantial loan to renovate her apartment, preparing it for their new life together. Naomi leaned back in her chair. Chloe was planning on quitting her job and taking out a huge loan for a man who was simply playing with her emotions. Obviously, he had promised to pay for it all. Or maybe not. Perhaps Darius really did want to leave her for good. Naomi thought that he simply didn't know how to handle the divorce properly, so he wouldn't lose all of his money. That's probably why he was lying to Chloe about the ownership of the condo. I need a recording of a conversation between Darius and one of his colleagues where he tells the unvarnished truth about his intentions, Naomi said, her voice steely. No sugarcoating, no lies, just his real thoughts. I'll try my best. He has a close friend at work named Terrence Williams. They often eat lunch together. I'll try to record one of their conversations. Perfect. And one more thing, find out absolutely everything about Darius's finances, all of his accounts, deposits, loans, debts, everything down to the very last penny. Marcus took detailed notes. That will likely take a few more days. You have until the end of the week, Naomi reminded him, her tone leaving no room for argument. She returned home and continued her elaborate double game. During the day she was the perfect attentive wife. She cooked her husband's favorite meals, smiled warmly, and showed genuine interest in his affairs. At night, she wrote to Chloe on Darius's behalf, meticulously feeding her expectations and subtly driving her to make increasingly reckless actions. I want you to be completely mine, she wrote. Quit your job. Take care of yourself. I'll fully support us both. Chloe eagerly believed every single word. By the end of the week, Chloe Jensen had officially submitted her 2-week notice at Synergy Marketing Group. Naomi learned this directly from Marcus, who was still diligently monitoring the young woman. She turned in the papers this morning, the detective reported over the phone. A standard 2 weeks notice. She also took out a significant loan at the bank before leaving her job. $300,000 at a 15% annual interest rate. Naomi repeated in disbelief. And she genuinely believes that Darius will pay off this massive loan? Exactly. Judging by their recent conversations, he promised to pay it off with his next substantial bonus. Naomi smiled ironically. Darius never gave his money away easily. Even his lawful wife had to constantly beg for funds for basic household needs. And now this girl was taking out a staggering $300,000 loan to renovate a complete stranger's apartment that her deceitful lover had promised her. She opened the tracking app and quickly reviewed her husband's recent messages. Indeed, he had written to Chloe about the impending loan. Don't worry, sweetheart. I'll be getting my bonus in December, and I'll pay off your loan immediately. You're doing this for us, for our future. Naomi shook her head slowly. Lie after lie, and the poor girl believed every single one. Well, enough with the sudden pity. Chloe had knowingly chosen to have a relationship with a married man. She knew that she was actively destroying another family. She had even called the lawful wife stupid. On Friday night, Marcus sent Naomi an audio file. This is the recording of your husband's conversation with his colleague Terry, he wrote in the accompanying message. Listen carefully. I sincerely believe that it's exactly what you need to hear. Naomi put on her headphones and pressed play on the audio recording. The recording started with the faint background noise of a crowded cafe, the clinking of dishes, and then Darius's unmistakable voice. Seriously, I'm getting so sick of all of these constant demands. Chloe is pressuring me incessantly. Naomi at home is incessantly complaining about wanting a baby. I just want to live peacefully for once. Terrence's voice, slightly mocking, replied. But you knowingly got yourself into this mess. Why in the world did you promise Chloe marriage? Darius responded defensively. She made it all up herself. I simply told her that I love her, that I want to be with her. And she immediately started imagining the white dress and the wedding rings. Women always overcomplicate things. So what are you actually going to do? Terry asked. There was a brief pause and then Darius's voice was quieter, almost conspiratorial. Look, I'll just have a little bit of fun with her for a little while longer, and then I'll finally settle down. It's definitely time to become an exemplary husband and finally have kids. Naomi will be 31 soon. The biological clock is ticking loudly. She'll eventually propose, forgetting all of my past offenses herself. This little adventure is just some harmless entertainment before a brand new phase of life. A last little taste of freedom, if you will. So you actually want to stay with your wife, Darius? Terry asked, surprised. Darius responded with a shrug. What other real choice is there? We have the condo, all of our joint assets, and 7 long years together. A messy divorce is incredibly expensive and overly complicated. It's much easier to simply wait it out. Chloe will eventually realize that I don't actually plan to marry her. She'll leave on her own eventually. They all leave when they finally realize that the fairy tale is unequivocally over. The important thing is to never make any concrete promises. I'm smart. I always leave myself an easy way out. The recording abruptly cut off. Naomi took off her headphones. Her hands were visibly trembling with barely contained rage. So both she and Chloe were simply pawns in his elaborate game. He had brazenly decided to have a little bit of fun, and then smoothly return to his boring family life, as if absolutely nothing had ever happened. No, that simply wasn't going to happen. She listened to the damning recording 3 more times. She carefully copied it onto a separate USB drive. It was the ultimate trump card that would shatter all of Darius's selfish plans. The next day, Naomi invited Marcus to meet her at a local coffee shop. I need you to help me set up a meeting, she said when they were seated at a quiet table in the back. I'm going to personally invite Chloe on Darius's behalf. I'll tell her that he has finally decided to announce the divorce and wants to celebrate the exciting start of their new life together. She will definitely come, and I will be there as well, secretly. Marcus pondered the risky plan. Risky but potentially effective. What then? She won't leave immediately. I will definitely intrigue her. I'll also call Darius there, supposedly for an urgent work-related matter. I'll orchestrate a public confrontation with plenty of witnesses. Exactly. I need reliable witnesses for the inevitable court case, and a pristine audio recording of the entire conversation. The detective nodded. I understand. When do you plan to do this? In 3 days. Wednesday evening. Darius will think I'm at a meeting with clients until late. Agreed. I will arrange video recording from outside. Extra evidence never hurts. Naomi smiled. The plan was becoming clearer and clearer. That same evening, she composed a message to Chloe, posing as Darius. Sweetheart, I've finally mustered the courage. Wednesday evening, I'm going to talk to my wife and come straight to you. Let's meet at the Skyline Room restaurant at 8 p.m. I want this night to be special, the start of our new life. Wear a beautiful dress. I love you. The reply came almost instantly. Darius, I'm so happy. I'll finally be the most beautiful for you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Naomi deleted the conversation and gently placed her husband's phone back on the side table. Darius was fast asleep, completely oblivious to the intricate trap being laid. The next 2 days were a whirlwind of preparation. Naomi booked a table at the restaurant under her own name, finalized the video recording arrangements with Marcus, and meticulously checked her digital audio recorder. Everything had to be absolutely perfect. On Wednesday morning, she prepared breakfast as usual, a seemingly normal start to the day. She kissed her husband goodbye. I'll be back late tonight, she said. Meeting with clients about a new listing. Don't wait up for me for dinner. Darius simply nodded, his eyes glued to his phone. Good. I'll be late too, he mumbled, barely looking up. Naomi smiled inwardly. Of course he'd be late, just not in the way he imagined. During the day, she sent another message to Chloe, again impersonating Darius. Sweetheart, I'll be a little late. I'll arrive around 8:30. Don't worry. Everything is going according to plan. My wife doesn't even suspect a thing. Soon we'll be together forever. The response was filled with excitement. "I'll be waiting, my love. I've already bought a new dress, especially for tonight." Perfect. Chloe had taken the bait completely. Now all Naomi needed to do was get Darius to the restaurant. Naomi called her husband around 6 o'clock in the evening. "Darius, hi. Look, a problem came up with some clients. They urgently need a consultation on a marketing campaign to sell their property. You're our marketing expert. Can you come to the Skyline room at 8:30? I'll buy you an excellent dinner as a thank you." Darius hesitated. "Naomi, I already have plans tonight." "Darius, this is really important. The clients want to sell a 3-bedroom in the downtown area. My commission will be over $200,000. Please help me out. Just 1 hour." There was a pause, then a sigh. "Okay. I'll be there at 8:30. Thank you, sweetheart. You're the best." Naomi hung up and smiled. All the pieces were now strategically positioned on the board. All that remained was to begin the game. The Skyline room was located on the top floor of an upscale office complex. The panoramic windows offered breathtaking views of the Atlanta skyline at night. Soft lighting created a romantic ambience, an expensive and prestigious setting, exactly the kind of place to celebrate a significant occasion. Naomi arrived first at 7:30. She was dressed in a severe black business suit, projecting the image of a businesswoman, not a rival in a battle of hearts. She requested a table near the window, providing a clear view of the entire room. She strategically sat with her back to the entrance, ensuring that Chloe wouldn't spot her immediately. Marcus Jones was seated at an adjoining table with a tablet. He appeared to be a regular diner, but his tablet was discreetly recording everything that transpired. Another hidden camera was cleverly concealed within a decorative plant near their table. At exactly 8 p.m., Chloe Jensen entered the restaurant. Naomi turned and saw her in person for the very first time. A young blonde woman in a tight red dress, high heels and loose flowing hair, adorned with heavy makeup and glossy lips. The girl radiated happiness and anticipation. Chloe scanned the room, searching for Darius. When she didn't find him, she approached the receptionist. "Good evening. I have a table reserved under Hayes," she said. The receptionist nodded. "Yes, of course. Please follow me." She led Chloe to the table by the window, the very table where Naomi was already seated. Chloe stopped abruptly when she saw the unfamiliar woman. "Excuse me, there must be a mistake," she said to the receptionist, clearly confused. "I'm waiting for a man." Naomi stood up and turned to face her. Their eyes met. "There's no mistake, Chloe," Naomi said calmly. "Sit down. We need to talk." The girl's face paled noticeably. You're Darius's wife." "Exactly. My name is Naomi Hayes. Please sit down. I don't bite. Or do you prefer to make a scene in front of the entire restaurant?" Chloe glanced around. Several diners were already looking in their direction with curiosity. She slowly sank into the chair opposite Naomi. "What do you want?" she hissed. "Where is Darius?" "Darius will be here soon," Naomi said, glancing at her watch. "In about 20 minutes. In the meantime, you and I are going to have a little chat. I have nothing to talk to you about. On the contrary, there's a great deal to discuss. For example, how you sent a message to my husband calling me stupid. Do you remember that?" Chloe flushed crimson. That was." She trailed off, unable to find any justification. "Or how you meticulously planned a life together with a married man." Naomi continued in an even tone. "You quit your job, took out a loan to renovate a stranger's apartment, all for a man who promised to marry you. He loves me." Chloe burst out. "He said himself that he was going to divorce you." "Oh, really?" Naomi retrieved her phone from her purse. "Let's listen to what he tells his friends about you, shall we?" She played the recording of Darius's conversation with Terry. Her husband's voice echoed clearly in the otherwise quiet restaurant. "Look, I'll have some fun with her for a little longer, and then I'll settle down. It's time to be an exemplary husband and start having kids. Chloe will eventually understand that I don't actually plan to marry her." She'll move on her own. This little adventure is, well, just entertainment before a new phase of life. Chloe listened intently, her face growing paler with each passing word. When the recording concluded, the girl sat in stunned silence, gripping the edge of the table with both hands. This isn't true, she finally whispered. You faked the recording. You faked it. Naomi smiled ironically. Fine, then let's just wait for Darius and ask him in person. Oh, by the way, there he is. She nodded subtly toward the entrance. Darius Hayes was entering the restaurant, dressed in a business suit and carrying a briefcase. He scanned the room, searching for his wife. Halfway to the table, he spotted Chloe. He froze in his tracks. His face drained of color. His eyes widened in disbelief. Naomi, what? He stammered, cutting himself off mid-sentence. Hello, Darius. Naomi greeted him sweetly. Come over here. Sit down. We're having a little meeting. Darius shot a confused look back and forth between his wife and his mistress, utterly bewildered. I can explain. Of course you can. Sit down and explain it to both of us. Naomi gestured toward the empty chair. Darius slowly sat down, his face a mask of anxiety. He remained silent, unsure of where to begin. Darius, Chloe said in a low, trembling voice. Tell her you love me. Tell her we're going to be together. Darius glanced at the girl, then at his wife. Naomi watched him calmly, patiently awaiting his response. Chloe, it's complicated, he mumbled, avoiding eye contact. You have to understand. What do I have to understand? The girl's voice rose sharply. That you lied to me? That everything you said was a complete lie? Several diners turned to look at their table, drawn in by the escalating drama. Lower your voice, please, Darius pleaded, his voice laced with desperation. Let's not make a scene. And what were you planning to make? Naomi asked coldly, her eyes fixed on her husband. You promised her marriage. You told her that I wouldn't get anything in the divorce because the condo is solely in your name. You lied about your intentions. You made her quit her job and take out a loan. And all this time, you were telling your friends that you were just having a bit of fun before settling down to be an exemplary husband. Darius's face was ashen. You've been spying on me. Of course I have. Did you really think I would just sit back and do nothing while you systematically destroyed our family? What family? He retorted, raising his voice. You turned our home into an extension of your real estate agency. Always working, always busy. And you decided to seek solace in your secretary's arms. Naomi countered. A classic solution. There's really nothing more to say. Chloe, who had been listening to their increasingly heated argument, suddenly burst into tears. They flowed silently without sobs, streaming down her cheeks and ruining her mascara. I was so stupid, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I believed every single word. I quit my job. I took out a loan. I actually dreamed of our wedding. And you just used me. Darius reached out to her, but the girl recoiled in disgust. Don't touch me, Chloe. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. He began, but Naomi cut him off. You didn't mean to? She interrupted, her voice dripping with sarcasm. You knew perfectly well what you were doing. You promised her the world, knowing full well that you wouldn't keep any of it. You manipulated her just like you've manipulated me all these years. Naomi, enough. Darius slammed his fist on the table, causing several nearby diners to jump. What right do you have to judge me? The right of a lawful wife, she answered calmly, her voice unwavering. The wife who lived with you for 7 years, who invested all her money in our condo, who planned a future with you while you were carrying on an affair with your mistress. Naomi retrieved a digital audio recorder from her purse and placed it deliberately on the table. Everything you are saying right now is being recorded. This recording will be used in the divorce proceedings. I also have witnesses. She nodded subtly toward Marcus, who was still sitting at the adjoining table, and added, Plus, I have a complete video recording of our conversation. Darius looked at the recorder, then at the detective, and his face contorted with rage. You set all of this up. You brought us here on purpose. Exactly. Naomi nodded, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. I organized a welcome home party. Remember Chloe's message about getting the keys to your new place? That's when I had the idea. I'll throw a welcome home party for both of you. A celebration of your new life together. Just not the one you were expecting. Chloe was still crying uncontrollably, her face buried in a napkin. Darius sat with his jaw clenched tight, glaring at his wife with poorly concealed fury. What do you hope to accomplish with this ridiculous spectacle? He groaned out. Justice, Naomi replied simply. And an honest division of assets. I consulted a lawyer. The condo was purchased during our marriage, so it is considered a joint asset. In the divorce, I am entitled to at least half. Moreover, I have all the receipts for the renovation and the new furniture. In fact, I invested $100,000 more than you did in our condo. Therefore, my share will naturally be larger. Darius's face turned an even deeper shade of red. You won't get anything. I'll find the best lawyers in the city. You certainly will find some excellent lawyers. Naomi nodded. And they will tell you exactly the same thing that my lawyers have already told me. The law is on my side. But it's not just about the condo. She retrieved another folder from her purse and placed it on the table. This is the dossier that the private detective compiled over the last week. Everything is in here. Photographs, conversation recordings, chat printouts, irrefutable proof of your infidelity, and concrete evidence of how you deceived not only me but also Chloe. Darius reached for the folder, but Naomi snatched it away just before he could grab it. This is just a copy. The original is in a safe place, along with notarized witness statements, audio recordings, and the full video recordings. In court, all of this will be formally added to the case. Why? Chloe asked in a low, broken voice, lifting her tear-streaked face from the napkin. Why are you doing this to us? Naomi looked at her directly. With you, dear girl, I haven't done anything. You did it all to yourself. You chose to get involved with a married man, you chose to believe his promises, you chose to quit your job, and you chose to take out a significant loan. Those were all your own decisions. But he promised. Men promise a lot of things, Naomi said harshly, her voice devoid of sympathy, especially when they're trying to get what they want. But you could have verified his words. You could have taken your time and not rushed into anything. You could have thought with your head instead of simply following your heart. Chloe slumped back into the napkin, sobbing quietly. I just wanted love. I wanted that once too, Naomi said softly, a hint of sadness in her voice. You see, 7 years ago I met a charming man. I fell in love and we got married. I made plans with him, dreamed of having children. And this is the result. A husband who cheats with his secretary, lies directly to my face, and promises his mistress what he can never deliver. She paused, then continued, her voice hardening. But I don't intend to just sit here and suffer and cry about it. I'm going to fight for my rights. And you, Chloe, will you help me? The girl looked up, her eyes red and swollen. Help? How? Testify in court. Confirm that Darius promised to marry you. Tell the truth about his deceitful actions. That will significantly strengthen my position in the division of assets. Darius shot up from his chair, his face contorted with anger. Are you crazy, Chloe? Don't listen to her. And why shouldn't I listen to her? The girl asked quietly, turning to look at him. You lied to me. You used me. You made me take out a loan. You made me believe in something that never existed. Why should I protect you? Why? Darius stammered, unable to formulate a coherent argument. Because you still love him, Naomi suggested gently. Sweetheart, he doesn't deserve your love. He's a selfish liar. And the sooner you understand that, the better off you'll be. Chloe remained silent, visibly struggling with Naomi's words. Think about it carefully, Naomi continued, pressing her advantage. You've quit your job. You've taken out a loan. Now you have no income and you're saddled with $300,000 of debt. Darius promised to pay off the loan, Chloe said, her voice wavering. But we both know he won't, will he? Right, Darius? Darius remained silent, his teeth clenched in a tight grimace. That's what I thought, Naomi nodded slowly. So you'll be left completely alone, burdened with a massive amount of debt. Unless what? Chloe asked, her voice filled with a flicker of hope. Unless I help you. You see, Chloe, I'm not naturally vindictive. I understand that you are also a victim in this messed up story. Darius manipulated you just like he manipulated me. That's why I'm willing to help you. You agreed to testify truthfully in court, and I will help you find a new job. I have many contacts in the city. I'll help you find a good position with a decent salary, so you can pay off your loan and get back on your feet. Chloe's eyes began to fill with a glimmer of hope. You would really do that? For real? Of course. But on one condition. You tell the court the absolute truth about your relationship with Darius, without hiding or omitting anything. The girl looked back at Darius. He was staring at her with a mixture of pleading and simmering anger. Chloe, please don't do it, he said softly. I beg you. And why not? She asked, her voice surprisingly steady. So that you can quietly go back to your wife as if nothing ever happened? So that I'm left with absolutely nothing? I'll find a way to help you, Darius murmured unconvincingly. What way, Darius? Chloe stood up, her voice gaining strength. You already told your friend Terry everything I was to you. To you. I'm just some meaningless entertainment before a new phase of life. Well, guess what? That phase won't be anything like what you had planned. She turned back to Naomi. I accept. I'll testify. I'll tell everything I know. Naomi nodded with satisfaction. Good girl. Here's my card. Call me tomorrow morning and we'll discuss the details. Chloe took the card, put it in her purse and started toward the exit. At the door she stopped, turned and looked directly at Darius. You know, Darius, I really loved you. I actually thought you were special. But it turns out that you're just a pathetic coward. She walked out of the restaurant without looking back. Darius and Naomi were left alone at the table. He stared out the window, his jaw clenched tightly. She calmly finished the last of her coffee. You destroyed everything, he finally said, his voice low and filled with resentment. No, Darius. You destroyed it. I've just put the pieces back in their proper order. What do you want from me? A divorce, an honest division of assets, and for you to leave me alone and never contact me again. And what if I refuse? Naomi looked at him, her expression unwavering. Then all these materials will go not only to the court, but also directly to your HR department. I wonder how the company will react when they discover that their associate director of marketing was involved in a lengthy affair with his secretary, especially considering the company's strict corporate ethics code. Darius's face turned deathly pale. You wouldn't dare. Oh, but I would dare, Darius. I most certainly would dare. If you obstruct the divorce proceedings or try to cheat me out of my fair share of the assets, you'll find out exactly how much I dare to do. The choice is yours. She stood up, leaving money on the table to cover her coffee. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow. I strongly advise you to find yourself a very good attorney. You're definitely going to need one. And with that, she left the restaurant, leaving Darius sitting alone at the table, surrounded by strangers and the shattered ruins of his carefully constructed illusions. The next morning, Naomi woke up with a rare feeling of relief. For the first time in what felt like forever, she had slept soundly, undisturbed by distressing thoughts or vivid nightmares. Her plan had worked almost perfectly. All the cards were on the table, and the game was now entering its final stages. Darius had not spent the night at home. Naomi didn't know where he was, and frankly she didn't care. The important thing was that the wheels were in motion, and the process was now virtually unstoppable. At 9 a.m. Chloe called. Mrs. Hayes? Hello? The girl's voice sounded exhausted. It's Chloe Jensen. You told me to call you this morning. Yes, of course. How are you feeling this morning? Terrible. I cried all night. I still can't quite believe that all this actually happened. I understand perfectly. The initial shock is always the hardest, but trust me, you will get through this. Believe me, in just a month or two, you'll look back on this whole ordeal and be amazed that you ever even got involved in the first place. Chloe sniffled quietly. I just wanted it to work out so badly. I know, but sometimes what we want most simply doesn't align with reality. It's always better to learn the truth now rather than a year or two from now, when it would hurt even more deeply. I guess you're right. Yes, I am. Listen, let's meet up today at noon, and we'll talk in more detail about your situation. I actually have a few job options in mind that I think might interest you. Seriously? You really want to help me that much? A spark of hope had begun to appear in Chloe's voice. Yes, I do. Come to my office at 3 o'clock this afternoon. The address is on the card I gave you. Okay. Thank you so much, Mrs. Hayes. I really didn't expect you to be so kind to me. Naomi sighed softly. Chloe, I'm not truly angry with you. Yes, you made a mistake by getting involved with a married man, but the main culprit in all of this is Darius. He deliberately deceived both of us. It just so happens that I'm a bit more experienced and savvy than you are, and I figured out his game a little bit sooner. And if I hadn't figured it out, he would have simply continued lying to me until he eventually got tired of you. And then he would have moved on to the next woman and so on ad infinitum. Men like Darius don't truly change. They just learn to cover their tracks more carefully. Chloe was silent for a moment, then said quietly, You know, I actually thought that I hated you. When I first found out that Darius even had a wife, I imagined you as some kind of evil, vindictive fury who wouldn't let him be happy. But you turned out to be just a normal person, even good. Naomi smiled ironically. Darius probably painted my portrait in very dark colors. That makes it much easier to justify his infidelity. If the wife is portrayed as bad, then the husband automatically has the right to seek solace elsewhere. That's a classic manipulation tactic. Yes, I suppose so. But enough of this, I'll see you at 3 o'clock. And Chloe stopped crying. You're still young, you're beautiful, and you have your whole life ahead of you. You'll find a decent, honest man, you'll get married, and you'll have children. And this whole story will eventually just become a painful but valuable lesson learned. Agreed. I'll try my best. I'll see you later. Naomi hung up the phone and sat in silence for a few moments, lost in thought. Chloe wasn't really such a bad girl, Naomi concluded. Naive perhaps and somewhat foolish and frivolous, yes, but not intentionally malicious. Just a silly young woman who blindly believed the fanciful tales of a manipulative older man. Although now was certainly not the time for too much compassion, she knew that she had to keep moving forward, one step at a time, following her plan. At 10 a.m. Naomi met with her attorney Olivia Stone. Olivia was a tall, imposing woman in her late 50s with a sharp, perceptive gaze and an iron will. She was widely regarded as the best family law attorney in the greater Atlanta area, and she had successfully won dozens of high-profile divorce cases throughout her long and distinguished career. Well, Mrs. Hayes, Olivia began briskly, spreading a thick stack of documents on the table. I have thoroughly studied all of the materials that you have provided. The case is very clear-cut. We have undeniable evidence of spousal infidelity, credible witness testimony, extensive audio and video recordings, plus detailed financial documents that clearly confirm your significant contribution to the joint assets acquired during the course of the marriage. So, what are my chances of a favorable outcome in this case? Naomi asked anxiously. Practically 100%, Olivia replied with unwavering confidence. You will almost certainly get at least half of the current market value of the condo, plus fair compensation for the substantial funds that you personally invested in the extensive renovation and the new furniture. You also have personal savings, approximately $600,000 in a separate investment account. Is that your own personal money, earned before the marriage, and maintained in a long-term certificate of deposit? Yes, it is, Naomi confirmed. Perfect. That money is legally protected, and it will not be subject to division in the divorce settlement. And what about your husband? What assets does he own separately? He has a relatively new car in his own name. We have a lake house property that we purchased jointly about 2 years ago. He has various bank accounts and investment deposits. I don't know the exact amount in those accounts, but I assume the private detective will find out soon enough. All of that will be subject to division as well. However, you should prepare yourself for a potentially long and arduous legal process. Your husband will almost certainly not give up his assets easily or willingly. I am fully prepared for a long fight, Naomi said firmly. I will not give up no matter how long it takes. Olivia smiled approvingly. That's what I like to hear. I always prefer to represent clients with character, determination, and unwavering resolve. We will start the complaint immediately and formally send all of the required documents to the court later today. They spent the next 2 hours in Olivia's office, meticulously discussing all the crucial details of the case, outlining their overall legal defense strategy, and carefully analyzing the possible moves that the opposing side might make. When Naomi finally stepped outside into the bright sunshine, the city was fully awake and buzzing with its usual frenetic activity. She glanced at her watch. It was 1:30. She had about an hour and a half until her scheduled meeting with Chloe. She decided to go home and change into something a little more comfortable. The condo greeted her with silence. Darius still had not returned. Naomi still didn't know where he had spent the night, and she found that she simply didn't care anymore. The most important thing was that the divorce process was now fully underway, and it was now essentially impossible to stop it. Naomi walked slowly through the familiar rooms, carefully contemplating the objects that now seemed so poignant. The comfortable sofa they had carefully chosen together at the furniture store. The colorful paintings hanging on the walls, brought back from their various vacations over the years. The small cabinet that Darius had proudly built with his own hands during the first year of their marriage. So many memories, both good and bad, happy and sad, joyful moments and bitter fights. All of it was now in the past, destined to fade away like old photographs. Naomi suddenly felt tears welling up in her eyes. Not really tears of pity for herself, but more a profound realization that an entire chapter of her life was now coming to a definite close. 7 long years spent together with a person that she had truly loved, and now nothing remained but complicated legal battles and a contentious division of assets. She allowed herself to cry for about 5 minutes, giving herself time to grieve the slow death of her marriage. Then she quickly wiped away her tears, washed her face with cold water, and carefully reapplied her makeup. Enough weakness and self-pity, she told herself sternly. A brand new life lay ahead of her, and she was determined that it would be better than the last. At exactly 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Chloe entered the Horizon Realty office where Naomi worked. The girl looked noticeably pale and tired, but she was holding herself together reasonably well. Naomi greeted her warmly and led her to the quiet conference room. She offered her coffee. "How did you sleep last night?" she asked, sitting down in the chair opposite her. "I barely slept at all," Chloe confessed, her voice still shaky. "I just kept thinking about everything that had happened, about all of Darius's lies, about how incredibly foolish I had been. It was all so overwhelming." "You weren't foolish, Chloe, just a little too trusting. That's not really a flaw. It's just a character trait that, unfortunately, led you to debt and temporary unemployment." "To temporary difficulties," Naomi corrected gently, "which we are now going to resolve quickly and effectively." She pulled out several printed sheets of paper and spread them out on the table in front of Chloe. "I called a few of my close business acquaintances this morning, and I actually found 3 very promising job options that might be a good fit for you." Chloe picked up the sheets and began attentively studying the job offers. "Okay, so what are the options?" "Well, the first option is a position as an assistant manager at a well-established construction company. The advertised salary is $65,000 per year, plus a potential bonus based on performance." "Okay, and the second one?" "The second option is a position as a receptionist at a busy medical center. The salary is a bit lower, only $60,000 per year, but it's a very stable and secure job with good benefits." "Okay, and what about the third one?" "The third option is a position as a sales associate at a high-end furniture showroom. The base salary is about $60,000 per year plus sales commissions, which if you do well, could potentially reach up to $70,000 per month. Chloe studied the papers carefully, her brow furrowed in concentration. And why are you helping me so much? She asked suddenly, looking up from the documents. I mean, I understand the bit about the testimony in court. But you could just demand my testimony without offering me anything in return. Naomi paused thoughtfully for a moment. You see, Chloe, I don't want to seek revenge on you. Revenge is a terrible and destructive feeling. It slowly eats you up inside, poisoning your mind and your soul. I don't want revenge. I simply want justice. Darius needs to answer for his deceitful actions. And you were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yes, you made a mistake, but you've already paid a very high price for it. You lost your job, you took out a large loan, and you suffered public humiliation. I think that you've learned a very valuable lesson, and I don't think there is any real need to punish you any further. I feel that you've been punished enough already. That's enough. Chloe nodded, and a tear rolled down her cheek. Thank you, she said in a low voice. You are a good person. Darius didn't deserve a wife like you. Instead, he deserved a mistress like you. Naomi smiled ironically. Trusting and naive, Chloe smiled through her tears. I won't get involved with married men again. Promise. Very good. So, which option interests you? The girl looked at the papers again. I like the third option, sales associate. I'm good at communicating with people, persuading. Maybe I'll grow there. Excellent choice. I'll call the owner of the showroom. He's a client of mine. I'll arrange an interview for tomorrow. Really? Chloe's eyes sparkled with hope. That would be wonderful. Then it's settled. And now let's talk about the trial. My lawyer wants to record your testimony on video. Then this recording will be added to the case. Are you ready? Chloe straightened up. Ready. I'll tell everything as it happened. Darius should get what he deserves. They spent another hour in the office discussing details. Then Naomi walked the girl to the exit. Remember, you're not the first or the last woman a man has deceived, Naomi advised as they parted. The important thing is to learn the lesson and not repeat the mistakes. I'll remember, Chloe nodded. And thank you again for everything. Naomi watched her leave and thought that life was a strange thing. Just a week ago, this girl was her enemy, her rival, the one trying to destroy her family, and now they were allies in the fight against a common aggressor. The trial began 3 weeks later. Many things happened during that time. Darius left the condo and moved into his friend Terry's place. Chloe started her new job at the furniture showroom and showed excellent results from day one. She sold an entire bedroom set to a young couple. Naomi sold 2 properties and received a good commission. The lawyers for both parties exchanged documents, claims and counterclaims. Darius demanded to keep the condo, arguing that he had made the principal mortgage payments. Naomi presented receipts for the renovation and furniture, proving her investment. The first hearing was formal. The judge studied the case materials, heard the positions of the parties, and ordered an appraisal to assess the value of the assets. Darius sat opposite Naomi, avoiding her gaze. He looked bad, thinner, haggard, and sad. After the hearing, Naomi ran into him in the courthouse hallway. Satisfied with the result? She asked. Darius looked up at her. Naomi, enough. Let's reach an agreement like adults. Let's divide everything equally and separate. Why drag this out? Like adults. She smiled ironically. Now you remember adulthood. When you were cheating on me for 4 months, lying to my face, making plans with your mistress. You weren't thinking about being an adult then. I made a mistake, he said quietly. I admit it. But do we really have to make this spectacle? You made the spectacle when you decided to live a double life. I'm just tidying up. You enjoy making me suffer. Naomi looked him in the eyes. No, Darius, I don't enjoy it. You know, I still remember the man I fell in love with a long time ago. Charming, funny, with a spark in his eyes. But that man disappeared. In his place appeared a selfish liar who only thinks about himself. Darius smiled bitterly. People change. Yes, unfortunately. But I'm not obligated to accept those changes. I have a right to happiness, and I'm going to find it without you. She turned and headed for the exit. Darius called out to her. Naomi, wait. She stopped without turning around. I really loved you, he said in a low voice. At the beginning. I really did. I know, Naomi replied without turning her head. I loved you too. Too bad it wasn't enough. And she walked out, leaving him standing in the empty hallway. The second hearing took place 2 weeks later. By then, the appraisal had valued the condo at $6 million. Considering Naomi's contributions to the renovation, her share amounted to $3,300,000. Darius's lawyer tried to challenge the renovation receipts, claiming they could have been falsified. But Olivia Stone presented testimonies from the contractors who did the work, contracts with companies, and photos of the condo before and after. The judge carefully studied all the documents. Do you have any other arguments? She asked Darius's lawyer. He hesitated. Your Honor, my client believes the division should be equitable 50-50ths. The division will be equitable, the judge interrupted him, taking into account the contribution of each party. The petitioner, Mrs. Hayes, invested $200,000, more than her husband in renovations and furnishings. Therefore, her share increases proportionally. Darius turned pale. His lawyer whispered something in his ear, but he wasn't listening. He just stared at Naomi with an expression of defeat on his face. The judge continued. Furthermore, the case materials include the testimony of witness Chloe Jensen regarding the respondent, Mr. Hayes's extramarital affair. This constitutes grounds for divorce at the wife's request. Mr. Hayes's infidelity is not disputed by his counsel. Your Honor, Darius's lawyer interjected. My client does not deny the fact of infidelity, but believes this should not influence the division of assets. It will not influence the division, the judge nodded. Assets are divided according to the law regardless of the causes for divorce. However, the fact of infidelity is taken into account when determining emotional distress damages. Emotional distress damages? The lawyer repeated. Yes, the petitioner, Mrs. Hayes, has the right to claim compensation for emotional distress in connection with spousal infidelity and public humiliation. Naomi hadn't even expected this turn. She hadn't asked for emotional distress damages, but the judge had raised the issue on her own. Olivia quickly wrote her a note. Except we will file for damages. We can get another $300,000 to $500,000. Naomi nodded. The hearing ended with a date set for the next session. When everyone left the courtroom, Chloe approached Naomi. What do you think will happen? The girl asked. Victory, Naomi said confidently. We will win this case, and then a new life will begin for both of us. Chloe smiled. You know, I recently met a guy. He works at the appliance store nearby. He's named Paul. Normal, simple, not handsome, not rich, but honest. He invited me to the movies this weekend. And you accepted? Yes. I decided to give him a chance. Maybe something good will come of it. I'm sure it will, Naomi nodded. If you're honest with him and with yourself. I will be. Promise. Darius taught me to value honesty. They said goodbye and Naomi headed for her car. On the way she called Olivia. Excellent work today, the lawyer said. The judge is on our side. I believe we will have a verdict in our favor in a month. And what about the emotional distress damages? I will file the request. We'll ask for $500,000. Most likely they will grant $300,000 or $400,000, but that's still money. Agreed. Go ahead. Naomi sat in her car and stared out the window for a long time. Everything was going according to plan. The divorce was inevitable. The division of assets was in her favor. Darius would get what he deserved. But why then was there such emptiness inside? She started the engine and drove home. On the way, she stopped at the grocery store buying food. The condo was silent and empty. Naomi made dinner, but she wasn't hungry. She sat on the sofa with a glass of wine and turned on the television. Comedy was playing on the screen. People were laughing and having fun. And Naomi sat alone in an empty condo, thinking that winning the lawsuit would not bring happiness, only justice and some money. But was that what she wanted when she got married? Did she dream of court battles and division of assets? No. She dreamed of family, children, shared happiness, but life had decided otherwise. The final hearing took place at the beginning of December. The city was preparing for the holidays. Naomi sat in the courtroom listening to the judge's verdict. The marriage between Mr. Darius Hayes and Mrs. Naomi Hayes is hereby dissolved. The marital assets are divided as follows. The condo and property with an estimated value of $6 million are divided equitably. The compensation amount of $500,000 must be paid by the respondent to the petitioner within 6 months. Darius sat with a stone face. His lawyer wrote something in a notebook. Naomi looked out the window and thought that she had won the battle. But the war had ended in defeat for everyone. After the verdict was read, they left the courtroom. Darius headed for the exit, but Naomi called him. Darius, wait. He stopped without turning around. I want to thank you, Naomi said. Darius turned looking surprised. For what? For the lesson you taught me to value myself, to fight for my rights, to not let others use me. He smiled bitterly. An expensive lesson. You chose that price yourself when you decided to cheat. Darius nodded. You know, I've thought a lot these months about us, about what went wrong. And I realized that we really could have been happy, had children, raised them, grown old together, but I ruined everything with my selfishness. Yes. Naomi nodded. You ruined it, and it can't be fixed now. I know. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Truly accepted. But that doesn't change anything. They were silent. Then Darius said, I heard Chloe is dating someone, Paul. They've been together for 2 months now. Yes, she's happy. Paul is a good man. Honest, decent, what she needs. And are you dating anyone? Naomi shook her head. Not yet, but I signed up for Spanish classes. I want to improve my conversation for working with foreign clients. That's good. You always like to learn. Yes, and I will continue to develop, to grow, to move forward, Darius sighed. Then I wish you luck. May everything turn out the way you want. And the same to you. They shook hands formally like strangers and went their separate ways. Naomi walked down the street. The divorce was finalized. The assets were divided. The chapter was closed. Ahead was a new life. She got into her car and drove to the office. Work helped her not to dwell on sadness. Clients, deals, negotiations. All of it filled the emptiness and gave her a sense of purpose. A week later, Darius transferred the first installment of the compensation. Naomi put it in a time deposit. It would serve her future well. Chloe called her several times, thanking her for the help, telling her about Paul. The girl had genuinely changed. She had become more mature, more sensible. The job at the showroom was going well. She had already received 2 bonuses for high sales. Mrs. Hayes, you know, I'm so grateful to you, she said during one of their calls. If it weren't for you, I'd still be in debt and depression. And now I have a new job, a new boyfriend, a new life. You did great. You knew how to get back on your feet. It's thanks to you. You gave me a second chance. You got back on your feet yourself. I just helped a little. And how are you doing? Good. Working, living, making plans, and your personal life. Naomi smiled ironically. Not yet. First, I need to recover from this whole story. I understand, but you're so beautiful and smart. You're sure to find a worthy man. We'll see. Time will tell. Naomi spent New Year's Eve with friends at a restaurant. They had fun, laughed, and made plans for the future. At midnight, Naomi made a wish. To be happy, truly happy, not just successful. She regularly attended her Spanish classes. The classes were 3 times a week in a small downtown studio. The group consisted of about 10 people, mostly people in their 30s and 40s who wanted to improve their language skills for work or travel. In the second class, Naomi met Elijah Davis, a man about 38 years old, tall with a kind face and calm gray eyes. He sat at the desk next to hers and helped her solve a difficult exercise. "Thanks," Naomi said. "I was completely getting tangled up in all these verb tenses." "No problem," Elijah smiled. "I was tangled up at first too. But then you get used to it. Practice is the important thing." "Have you been studying Spanish long?" "About a year. Before I only knew what I learned in high school, but my work requires a higher level. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I often have medical conferences abroad. I need to understand the presentations and communicate with colleagues." "A surgeon. Interesting profession." "Yes, but complicated. Great responsibility. Although when you see the result that a person has healed thanks to your work, you understand that it's worth it." Naomi smiled. There was something comforting about this man. He didn't try to impress or brag. He just spoke calmly about himself. After class, they went outside together and started chatting at the exit. "Are you also studying the language for work?" Elijah asked. "Yes, I'm a real estate broker. I work with luxury properties. Foreign clients often appear. I need to be able to communicate fluently." A successful career, you could say. Although lately I've had a lot of personal problems that distracted me from work. Elijah looked at her attentively. "Want to grab a coffee? There's a good cafe nearby. If you have time, of course." Naomi hesitated for a second, then nodded. "Why not? I have time." They sat in the cafe at a back table, drank coffee, and talked. Elijah talked about his work, complicated surgeries, and patients. Naomi listened, asked questions, and was surprised by his calm and composure. "And you?" he asked. "Tell me about yourself, if it's not a secret, of course." Naomi sighed. "My divorce recently ended. It was hard, unpleasant. My husband cheated on me. I had to divide the assets through court." "I understand. I know that topic too. I divorced 3 years ago. My wife left me for someone else." "And how did you get over it?" "It was hard at first. I felt cheated. But then I realized that you have to keep moving forward. Life doesn't end with one person. There are so many opportunities, meetings, and events ahead. You just have to open yourself up to them." "You're an optimist," Naomi smiled. "A realist. I've seen too much pain and suffering in my profession to get stuck on personal problems. When you operate on a person, when you save their life, you realize that a divorce or an infidelity is not the end of the world, just an unpleasant episode that you have to overcome and move on from." She looked at him and thought that it had been a long time since she had met such a calm, balanced man, without apparent bravado, without attempts to seem better than he was, just a normal person who had gone through pain and learned to keep living. They stayed in the cafe for 2 hours talking about everything. Then Elijah looked at his watch. "I have to go. I have surgery early tomorrow. I need to sleep." "Of course. Thank you for the company. I enjoyed it too. Let's do it again after the next class." "I'd love that." They exchanged phone numbers and said goodbye. Naomi walked home with a light heart. For the first time in many months she felt good. Not just calm, but good. The meeting with Elijah had opened something new inside her. Hope, interest, or simply the understanding that life goes on. 2 years passed. One warm, quiet summer evening, Naomi stood by the window of the condo where she had remained living after the divorce, having paid her ex-husband half of its value. With the money he received, Darius bought a 1-bedroom apartment in the suburbs. Naomi looked out at the city. Many things had changed in these 2 years. The condo now belonged only to her. After the divorce, she did cosmetic renovations, changed the furniture, and added vibrant accents. The home truly became her territory without shadows of the past. Work was going excellently. Naomi had received a promotion and now managed the luxury properties department. Her clients were successful entrepreneurs, foreigners, and celebrities. Her income doubled, but the main change happened in her personal life. She had married Elijah Davis 6 months ago. A small intimate wedding in a circle of close friends without pompous celebrations or excessive ostentation. Just 2 people who had found each other and decided to be together. Elijah turned out to be exactly what she had been looking for all her life. Reliable, honest, decent. He didn't promise the world. He didn't dispense sweet words. He simply loved her with a calm, deep love that warmed her soul. 3 months ago, Naomi found out she was pregnant. It was a joyful surprise. Elijah was thrilled. He fluttered around her with care and attention. Together they chose the stroller, the crib, and the baby clothes. They soon learned it would be a girl. The ultrasound showed it. They had already chosen the name Zoe. Naomi placed her hand on her rounded belly and smiled. Soon she would be a mother. The dream she had cherished all these years would come true. Her phone rang. Naomi went to the table, picked up the mobile. It was Chloe calling. "Mrs. Hayes? Hello." The girl's voice sounded cheerful on the phone. "How are you?" "Everything is perfect, thank you. And how are you?" "Wonderful. Paul and I have decided to move in together. We're going to rent a 2-bedroom apartment. I wanted to consult you. Maybe you can help me find a good option." "Of course I'll help you. Come to the office tomorrow and we'll talk it over." "Thank you so much. You are the best. How's work?" "Perfect. They promoted me to sales manager. My salary has gone up. I've already paid off more than half of the loan. 6 more months and I'll be debt-free." "Well done. I'm proud of you." "It's thanks to you. You gave me a second chance. You got back on your feet yourself. I just helped a little." They chatted for about 10 more minutes discussing Chloe and Paul's plans. The girl radiated happiness, and Naomi was happy for her. Chloe had truly changed. She had matured and started taking life more seriously. She had learned to value true feelings. After the conversation, Naomi returned to the window. Dusk was falling. The condo door opened. Elijah entered with grocery bags. "Hello, darling." He kissed her on the cheek. "I bought everything you asked for and I also brought strawberries. I know you love them." "Thank you, honey. You're so thoughtful. For you and our little one, anything." He hugged her, placing his hand on her belly. They stood by the window watching the sunset in silence. Words weren't needed. They understood each other perfectly. Naomi thought about the long road she had traveled in these 2 years. Pain, resentment, struggle, victory, and finally true happiness. Not illusory, not invented, but real. With a person who loved her truly, with a child who would soon be born, with a job that brought her joy, with a life full of meaning. Deep in thought. "Are you worried about something?" Elijah asked softly. "Not at all. Everything turned out so well. You earned this happiness despite all the difficulties. We earned it together." He hugged her tighter, and Naomi closed her eyes, savoring the moment. Somewhere in another part of the city Darius was living. She knew he had bought a 1-bedroom apartment on the outskirts. He worked at a small company as a sales specialist. After the scandal, he quit his old job, deciding to start fresh. He was dating a colleague, Irene, but he wasn't planning on marrying her. And Irene was waiting and hoping, just as Chloe once waited. Naomi felt neither anger nor pity toward him, just indifference. He had made his choice and got his result. She had made hers and found happiness. Life had turned out to be fair to everyone. 3 months later, Zoe was born. A healthy baby girl with blue eyes and a tuft of blonde hair on her head. Elijah cried with happiness, holding his daughter in his arms. Naomi looked at the 2 of them, her dearest people, and felt absolute bliss. This was the real thing. Not in condos, money, or court victories, but in these moments. The husband holding the newborn daughter, smiling through tears, whispering tender words. Chloe came to the hospital with a bouquet of flowers and a gift for the little one. A pink plush rabbit. "She's a darling," the girl marveled, looking at little sleeping Zoe. "You and Elijah are so happy. I look at you and I believe that true love exists." "It exists," Naomi nodded. "You just have to find the right person and not rush. Give the relationship time to develop." "I've learned that lesson now with Paul. I'm building the relationship differently. Slowly, honestly, without illusions. And you know what? It's much better. We've been living together for half a year, and I haven't regretted it once." "I'm happy for you, Chloe. And I'm happy for you. You earned this happiness after everything you had to go through." The girl paused. Then she added, sometimes I think about that story with Darius, and I understand that it was an important lesson, painful, offensive, shameful, but necessary. If it weren't for that story, I wouldn't have met Paul. I wouldn't have changed myself. I wouldn't have become the person I am now. Naomi nodded. I have similar thoughts. If it weren't for Darius's infidelity, I wouldn't have met Elijah. I wouldn't have had Zoe. I would have continued living in an unhappy marriage, deceiving myself. So, everything happens for a reason. Maybe life leads us where we need to be. The important thing is to be resilient to changes and know how to learn lessons. They talked a little more. Then Chloe left. Naomi was left alone with her daughter. Zoe slept, breathing softly. A small miracle that had changed her whole life. Elijah returned in the evening. How are my girls? He asked, kissing his wife. Perfect. Zoe sleeps almost all the time. She only wakes up to eat. What a smart girl. Grow up healthy and calm. He took his daughter in his arms, holding her close to his chest. Naomi watched them and thought that this was her deserved happiness. A year later, Naomi ran into Darius by chance at a major shopping mall. He was standing by the display window of an electronics store, talking on the phone. He looked aged, tired. His face bore the mark of disappointment. Naomi walked past, pushing the stroller with Zoe. Darius saw her, froze, then slowly nodded in greeting. She returned the greeting and kept walking. No emotion, no regret, just two people who were once close and had now become strangers. Life continued, each on their own path. Naomi walked through the mall, smiling at her daughter sitting in the stroller. Elijah was waiting for her ahead. They had agreed to meet at a coffee shop on the second floor. Family, love, future. Everything important was right here, and the past stayed where it belonged, behind her. And that was exactly right. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you enjoyed this tale of heartbreak, resilience, and ultimately redemption, feel free to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of love, loss, and life's unexpected turns. If you enjoyed that story, you can support me by sending a super thanks, which helps me continue to create and share similar stories. I really appreciate your kindness and support. I'm eager to read your thoughts and comments about the story. You'll see 2 new life stories on the screen right now that I think you'll really enjoy. There are many more on my channel for you to discover. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss them. I'll see you in the next life story. Sending you all my love and respect.